Alright, this is a video on how to replace the paddles on a Cornelius UF1 valve. The symptoms you'd have is it would be dripping either syrup or water out of the nozzle. Even when you're not using the valve, it just keep on coming through. This one doesn't have a nozzle, but and I have another video if you need to find out how to remove this valve from the machine. But to remove the front cover, you just push up right underneath the sticker, straight up. You don't have to slide it all the way up. You can, or you can, if there's not enough room above, you can just pop it, and these ones just pull off. And then the top cover, you do have to pull the top cover towards you just a bit, and then it'll come up and off. Because it's got these little grooves it slides into there, so it won't let you just pull straight up. And then once you have it like this, we need to remove the coil, the solenoid. That is what activates the yoke to pull on the plunger, which opens up your pulls on your paddles, and that allows the flow through. When these things get pulled like that, that's what lets the liquid through. So what can happen is these paddles, this metal rod goes down to a rubber like plunger. This can snap off, and then this doesn't have any tension on it, so it just starts dripping through. Or the paddle, which I'll show you in a little bit, could get debris on it or just wear out, and it just doesn't cause a good seal, so it just keeps on coming through. So the paddle, or I'm sorry, the solenoid is very easy to remove. You have this side right here. Just take your screwdriver and pry, and it literally just pulls out. So that is your solenoid. So in there is the little actuator that pulls on this, which moves your paddles. It's a little chain reaction. So next thing is you want to remove your bottom plate that your nozzle goes into, and that's super easy. You got this tab on both sides, and all you do is, you can even use your finger, just pull it away from the valve. Just pull it away, and the whole thing will just unhook. Set that to the side. Now you have your 5 screws, and that is what you need to take off to get to the paddles. So there are 5 Phillips. You can do everything with a Phillips. Flathead can be helpful, but you can do it all with a little Phillips screwdriver. Okay. Take your screws. You don't have to take them out, but when you go to put this black body back on, sometimes the screws will fight you. Like right now, they're not even wanting to come out. Come on. Okay. And then when you go to pull this apart, there's 2 little springs that might pop out. There's one of them. So just make sure you don't lose those springs. These little guys. Don't lose those. Set those to the side, and then you'll have something that looks like this, and these are your paddles. So you can get these, I'll try and find a link and put it in the description, but you can get these on eBay. You can order them from Coca-Cola, you can order them from Pepsi, whoever you do business through. And you can find them other places online too, but they're Cornelius UF1 paddles. If you search that, you'll be able to find them. So you would take your old paddles out. Sometimes there's just debris, like a little piece of something stuck on the paddle. If that's the case, if you find something obvious, you can just rinse it out, rinse out these 2 ports real well, and then try and put it back together and see if that works. If you have new paddles, obviously I would recommend putting those in, but if you don't, you can try cleaning them, or even in some cases, flipping it over, and that may stop it from dripping through. You got this little guy. Sometimes this falls out, and it can be confusing on how it goes in, but it just sits on that little groove right there, and that horseshoe looking thing points straight up. So I'm going to pretend these are my new paddles. I'm just going to line up this little slot with the rod, drop it down in there, do this one, make sure they're seated nice and flat, and they should be on top of the yoke, not behind it. So if you put your paddles in and then you try and do that, it's not going to go together very well. And then take your body that we unscrewed with my pesky screw that doesn't want to come out of the center, and just put it right on top. Make sure it's nice and flat. You can look at it from the side. As long as it's nice and flat on both sides, go ahead and start putting your 5 screws back in. Probably be good to do it in a star pattern, but I've never had issues just doing it however. Okay. Now, you want to lay it flat. I'm going to hold it like this because the camera's kind of angled. But this is probably the trickiest part. It's not hard, but just be careful with these, because if you lose it and it goes flying, you'll have to order these too. So you see that little nub sticking off of my paddle? That little round nub, you're going to take your spring, and I like to just use my fingers, and you kind of just set it there at an angle so that one side of it is right near that nub, and then you're going to compress your spring down with your finger. You're going to push it down, and it's going to pop onto a little plastic nub. A little harder. Oh, didn't get it quite right. Pop it out and try again. Push it down. Went smoother last time. There we go. So it should look nice and straight once you get it in there. I don't know why the video makes it look a little crooked, but nice and straight on the nub that it sits on. You can't see the nub, but it's right there. It's direct little line there. And then you want to make sure your paddle bounces back. So just push your paddle in with your finger or your screwdriver, or just make sure it springs back. And then we'll put our other spring in. This one should go better. Set it on the nub. Push down. I chose a bad day to cut my fingernails. Sometimes fingernails are helpful. There you go. Pop it onto that little nub there. Same deal, make sure it springs back. Cool. You can push down on your yoke, make sure it's all springy. And that's it. You got your new paddles in. So putting the coil back on is pretty easy. I'm going to show you, because sometimes this little plastic cover comes off and then you can see the actual rod. This cover, if you pry it from the side, should just pop right off. And then this is what actuates everything. So your wires should face to the right if you're looking straight at the valve. And what you're going to do is you're going to put that little actuator rod, you're going to straddle the yoke, and then you just push, it clicks into place. And then you can kind of see how this all activates. So that's all done. And then your switch over here is another thing that can be a little tricky if it comes out of place. It's got 2 holes there and 2 wires, and you want to line these 2 holes up with these 2 little posts, making sure that the white button is as far away from you, because you can put it in backwards. It's not very easy, but you can. So it should look like this. Come on. Wow. There we go. Should look like that. It's just down on those little posts. And I like to hold it with my thumb. Kind of flip the whole thing upside down or sideways. And then it's time to put that plate back in that we took out. So you'll see there's a little groove on each side of the back of it. And you take this plate and you put it in the groove first at an angle like that, just the very end, and then you're gonna just push straight, clicks in. Make sure that your lever is hitting your little micro switch there. Everything's springy. You would normally put your nozzle back in. And that's it. That's I didn't have that fully clicked in. But that's it. That's how to change your paddles out. And that should fix it leaking through. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me. This little cover just pushes straight on. It's got little tabs on the side. Pushes in, and it should, I guess it doesn't really click, but you can tell when it's fully seated, it's flat right here. And then this top of this little thing is what holds the wiring harness. I just slide that in there. And you would put the valve back on the machine. Let's check out my other video on how to remove and reinstall the valve. Put the plastic cover back on, slide it away from you, and then your top or your front plate. And you just kind of line it up and slide it down, and you just change your paddles out. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask me. Check out that link if you need to get paddles. And yeah, thanks for watching.